Well, it's not too big of a surprise, and I guess I'm a little late to talking about this, but old Joe Biden, or at least his campaign, we don't really know who made this decision, decided to pick Kamala Harris as the vice presidential candidate to run on the Democratic ticket this year. Now, who is going to run as Joe Biden's VP is one of the most. It's got to be the most important vice presidential pick in decades, because it's almost certain that Joe Biden will not be able to make it through his first term, and he certainly will not make it through 2 terms. So, in all likelihood, the person who runs for president, or who runs for vice president this year, is going to be the person on the ballot in 2024, were Biden to actually win this year and Trump were to lose. So this person is, if Biden is elected president, the vice president has an extremely high chance of becoming president themselves. And so it actually matters who Biden's VP is. And, the fact that they went with Kamala Harris, I think speaks volumes about, the current state of the Democratic Party and just how, I guess, out of their own game they are right now. We're a far cry from 2008 and 2012, when the Democrats looked like they were on top of the world, as far as being in touch with the zeitgeist and stuff. Obama had a way with words, and he could say what needed to be said, that Democratic voters wanted to hear. Joe Biden not only has none of that ability to do these days what Obama did back then, but neither does Kamala Harris. I mean, she's perhaps uniquely unqualified to run in the year 2020. And the main reason for that, other than the fact that she's just a pretty typical establishment shill corporate Democrat, is that she's also a cop. And the progressive base, the activists, the real left-wingers in this country hate her. Kamala Harris really, is kind of an understatement to say she's a cop, because not, at least in the way that most Americans think, not all cops are bad people, but there are some bad cops out there. Now, to the activist left, all cops are bad. I understand their position on that. And Kamala Harris is actually everything that a bad cop, means. She is that caricature of a disgusting pig who stomps all over you and, tells you to kiss it. She goes after vulnerable people, tries to load them up with the most damning charges possible, get them locked away for as long as possible, use them while they're in prison as, cheap to free labor, essentially, legalized slavery. She is the archetype of sort of the evil prosecutor who just goes around rounding up as many people as possible who they know are too poor to defend themselves in court on and charge them on frankly loose grounds just to rack up their body count. Prosecutors are very proud of how many cases that they've won, and because if you go through so many cases, after a while, people are going to stop looking at the details of each individual case, and just the overall number, becomes your big selling point. So that's kind of how you peacock amongst other, attorneys and prosecutors, as you show off, hey, look at how many felons I've jailed, and for how many years cumulatively, if you add up all the sentences that have been delivered in cases that I've prosecuted. Look at how long I've put people away. Look at how many men I've sent to death row. So Kamala Harris is an integral part of the system that these riots have been revolting against over the past few months. I mean, the Black Lives Matter riots wouldn't be happening if there weren't also prosecutors that worked hand in hand with the police to do all these terrible things that the Black Lives Matter folks and other people on the left accuse them of. If any of these folks who have been rioting in the streets care anything about our criminal justice system, how can they have any confidence that anything will change if they get out to vote for the Democratic Party this year, when at the top of their ticket they have Joe Biden of the mid-90s crime bill fame and Kamala Harris, the crooked cop? I mean, really, I couldn't imagine anyone who, any pick for VP that would seem more tone deaf than this. If anything, Biden needs to balance himself out, his own record of being tough on crime with someone who's, real soft, someone who is, seemingly pro-crime almost, just to balance things out. I think a Stacey Abrams type, as insufferable as she is, would have been a smarter pick than old Kamala Harris. Because as much as I don't like Stacey Abrams, she is a pretty credible opponent of the United States and our traditions and everything that that the country stands for, including the police. Now, the important thing is really just the police. But if you have someone who really just stands against America in general, then they're going to stand against the good and the bad. But other than that, I can't think of anyone who he could have picked that would have been an overtly anti-cop sort of pick for VP. But even though that's really what he needs. And again, I'm not saying Joe Biden comes out and starts saying that Officer O'Malley is a pig or something like that. I don't think Joe Biden should say that. I think it would make him look terrible. But all I'm saying is that he needs, to earn some credibility among the left in order to get them to vote, to go out and vote for him, because they are a substantial portion of the population, of his base, of what is supposed to be the Democratic base. And if the base of your party is totally, not interested in voting, well, then, turnout's not going to be too good in what should be very strong Democratic areas. And so that means that, you start to slip in swing states and, you start to give a bit of an edge to Donald Trump, who seemingly, based off of the primary results so far, even when Trump was the only person on the ballot, a lot of people still got out to vote for him. Judging by that, it seems like Trump voters are still very enthusiastic to get out and vote for him. The same cannot be said of Joe Biden. So since he wasn't, someone who excited the left, they needed a VP who did, and Kamala just is not that person. I know Joe Biden must be probably confused if he sees some of the talk on Twitter and stuff from these leftists who are so mad at Kamala Harris. Because the way Joe Biden looks at it, he says, well, I picked a black woman. How much better could I have done? She's a woman and she's black. She checks both of the boxes. And for, the most shallow people in America, perhaps that is enough. Even though, a lot of black people, I think, would argue that Kamala isn't black, or at least she's not African American, in a factual sense. But I don't really want to get into that debate. So to sum things up, the way I look at it is that Joe Biden's campaign in 2020 is a lot like John McCain's campaign in 2008. The only reason why John McCain was nominated in 2008 is because it was his turn. He was the runner-up, or one of the runner-ups back in 2000. He ran again in 2008, so everyone understood, okay, well, we have to let John McCain, go at it this time. But no Republicans were excited. I was around back then. No one I know liked John McCain, ever. He was always seen as a rhino by most, ordinary Republican voters. Even back when the Iraq War was still popular, John McCain as a personality was disliked. And so what they had to do in 2008 to get people to go out to vote for John McCain was they brought on someone who was popular with the base at the time, and that was Sarah Palin. And even though we look back and, she seems very cartoonish, and frankly she was, at the time, Sarah Palin was taken seriously by the Republican base, and was considered to be, one of the few people in the party who actually would fight for what they felt they believed in. And so a lot of people I know, because I wasn't old enough to vote in 2008, sort of swallowed the pill of John McCain, and just went out and pulled the lever because they were sort of betting on Sarah Palin, adding in a bit of an incentive. They hoped that if elected, Sarah Palin could swing things in the administration sort of towards their direction, and that if anything happened to John McCain, who even way back in 2008 was a very old and frail man, Sarah Palin would be president. People were happy with that. But the Biden campaign didn't do that. They essentially picked a younger and more feminine version of Joe Biden to be his running mate. And that really, I think, was a very big mistake. So with that said, if you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.